Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. Ready to explore some really fascinating research today.
Absolutely. Always exciting to dig into some cutting-edge work.
So today we're diving headfirst into the world of large language models, those LLMs everyone's talking about, and specifically how they're shaking things up in the world of code security.
Yeah, this is a hot topic for sure.
It really is. And to guide our deep dive, we're turning to a really insightful systematic literature review from Enabasi and Abertogiaretta.
Ah, yes. Their paper, Large Language Models and Code Security. A systematic literature review. Really lays out the landscape nicely.
Yeah, it does a fantastic job of summarizing a ton of research in this area.
Yeah.
It's incredible how much work is already being done in this field.
It really is. It's moving so fast.
Yeah, and what's so cool is that this research explores both the exciting possibilities and the potential risks LLMs bring to code security.
Right. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, right?
Exactly. It's like this double-edged sword, and that's what makes this deep dive so intriguing.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's jump right in. One of the things that really struck me in this paper is this almost paradoxical finding about LLMs like ChatGPT.
Hmm?
They're amazing at generating functional code. They can whip up code snippets like nobody's business,
Right?
but they often miss the mark when it comes to secure coding practices.
Yeah, it's like they're brilliant poets, but haven't quite grasped the concept of street smarts, you know?
That's a perfect analogy. They can write beautiful, elegant code,
Mm-hmm.
but they sometimes leave these gaping security holes,
It's true.
like forgetting to lock the doors.
Yeah.
So what kinds of vulnerabilities are we talking about here? What did the research actually find in LLM-generated code?
Well, they found a whole spectrum of issues, but one of the most common and concerning is injection vulnerabilities.
Okay, injection vulnerabilities. Now, for those of us who aren't security experts, can you break that down a little bit? What does that actually mean, and why is it such a big deal?
Yeah, so imagine an attacker, they're trying to sneak malicious code into a system.
Right.
And they find a way to inject it in a way that tricks the system into doing something it shouldn't,
No.
like revealing sensitive data or even giving the attacker control.
Oh, wow.
A classic example is SQL injection, where the attacker basically sneaks harmful code into a database query.
Okay.
And that can potentially lead to massive data breaches.
That's definitely not good.
No, not at all. And the scary part is LLMs can sometimes leave these openings for injection attacks right in the code they generate.
So it's like they're accidentally handing the attackers the keys to the kingdom.
Pretty much. It's a real concern.
Okay, so injection vulnerabilities, that's one big one. What other kinds of vulnerabilities did the research uncover?
Well, they also found a lot of memory management issues.
The memory management, okay.
Yeah, things like buffer overflows or, even just forgetting to do those basic null pointer checks.
Null pointer checks. So they're tripping up on even the fundamentals of secure coding.
Sometimes, yeah. It seems like those low-level details sometimes slip through the cracks.
Okay, so that can lead to crashes, right?
Yes, exactly. Crashes or, even worse, exploitable flaws that attackers can use to their advantage.
Yikes. Anything else? Any other types of vulnerabilities that stood out in the research?
Yeah, they also found a lot of file management vulnerabilities.
File management. What does that mean in terms of security?
So think about it this way. If the code doesn't properly restrict access to files, an attacker won't be able to sneak in
Okay.
and get their hands on sensitive information.
Oh.
Things that should be kept under lock and key.
So it's not just theoretical, right? Like these vulnerabilities could have real-world consequences.
Oh, absolutely. This is serious stuff.
This is all pretty concerning. Does the research offer any hope here? Like, are there things we can do to make LLMs produce more secure code?
Well, the good news is, yes, there are things we can do. The research indicates that the way we talk to LLMs can actually make a big difference.
Okay, how we talk to them. You mean like the way we give them instructions?
Exactly. The way we prompt them. By using more detailed and specific prompts, we can kind of nudge them towards more secure coding practices.
So it's all about being super explicit in our instructions.
Yeah, it's like giving them a really clear roadmap with all the security checkpoints clearly marked along the way.
It's almost like we're training a brilliant but somewhat naive intern, right?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. We need to be very clear about what we want, and just as importantly, how to do it securely.
Okay, so there's some hope there.
Uh,
Now, shifting gears a bit, The research also highlights how LLMs can be used to actually hunt for existing vulnerabilities.
Right.
Not just the ones they might introduce, but vulnerabilities in any code.
Exactly. It's like they can be used as code security detectives.
That's fascinating. So how does that work? How are researchers using LLMs to find vulnerabilities?
Well, they're basically putting LLMs head to head with these traditional tools called static analysis tools, or SATs.
SATs.
Yeah, which have been the go-to for code analysis for a long time.
Okay.
And the results are pretty interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Spill the beans. Are LLMs actually better at finding vulnerabilities than these traditional SATs?
Well, the research is a bit of a mixed bag, which makes it even more interesting.
Okay, so some good news, some bad news.
You could say that. Some studies show LLMs, especially when they're fine-tuned for security tasks,
Okay.
they can actually outperform SATs at identifying certain types of vulnerabilities.
So they're developing a kind of sixth sense for sniffing out security weaknesses.
Yeah, exactly. They're learning to see patterns that might be missed by more traditional methods.
That's pretty impressive. But you said it was a mixed bag, so I'm guessing there are some downsides too, right?
Yeah, one challenge is that LLMs can sometimes be a bit too eager, They might flag harmless code as dangerous.
Oh, like false positives?
Exactly, false positives. And that can be a real headache for developers.
I can imagine you're sifting through all these alerts trying to figure out what's actually a real threat.
It's like crying wolf too many times. Eventually, people start to tune it out.
Yeah, that's a problem. So, false positives are a big challenge. Anything else?
Well, there are also just inherent limitations with the technology itself, like sometimes the complexity of the code
Right.
or even just confusing variable names.
Oh, really? Variable names can trip them up.
Sometimes, yeah, it can make it harder for the LLM to really understand what the code is doing.
That's interesting. So it's not a perfect solution.
Not yet, no. But there's a lot of promising research being done to address these challenges.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. Now, finding vulnerabilities is one thing,
Yeah.
but can LLMs actually fix them? Like, can they actually go in and patch the code?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And the research suggests that, well, it's complicated.
Okay. I figured as much.
They seem to be pretty good at fixing those localized issues like those memory leaks we talked about.
Okay.
But when it comes to those more complex bugs, the ones that require a deep understanding of the code's overall architecture,
Right.
that's where they tend to struggle a bit.
So they're like expert patchers, but not quite ready to do a full-blown renovation.
A perfect analogy. But one area that's really got researchers excited is this idea of using LLMs to actually fix vulnerabilities in their own generated code.
Wait, hold on. They can find and fix their own errors? That seems kind of counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it? You'd think it'd be like asking someone to proofread their own work, but the research shows that it can actually work.
Really? How well does it work?
One study found that over 89% of vulnerabilities in LLM-generated code could be mitigated through a process of prompting and feedback.
Wow, 89%. So it's like they're learning from their mistakes.
Exactly. It's like having them go back and revise their work with a security expert looking over their shoulder, giving them pointers and guidance.
That's fascinating. So it's like we're teaching them to become more security aware.
In a way, yes. It's a really promising area of research.
This is all incredibly insightful. It seems like there's a lot of potential for LLMs in the world of code security.
Absolutely. But there are definitely challenges to overcome as well.
Right, like those false positives and the limitations with handling really complex code.
Exactly. And one of the key takeaways from this research is that the way we communicate with these LLMs, the way we prompt them,
Right, right.
it plays a crucial role in how well they perform.
So how we talk to LLMs really matters. That's fascinating.
It really does.
I'm really curious to hear more about that. Like, what are some of the different prompting strategies researchers are exploring, and what seems to be working best?
Yeah, there's a whole spectrum of techniques they're experimenting with.
Okay, well, let's dive into those in part 2.
Sounds good. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were talking about how different prompting strategies can impact the performance of LLMs in code security.
Yeah, we've left off on a bit of a cliffhanger there with all those different prompting techniques researchers are exploring.
Right, right. So let's dive into some of those.
Okay, let's do it.
So one basic approach is called zero-shot prompting. It's essentially giving the LLM instructions without any specific examples. You're basically relying on its general knowledge and its ability to reason to figure out what to do.
So it's like saying, hey, LLM, find the vulnerabilities in this code, and crossing your fingers.
Pretty much. And while it can sometimes work, the research suggests that other prompting techniques tend to be more effective.
Okay, so what are some of those more effective techniques?
Well, one that's gaining a lot of traction is few-shot prompting. The idea here is to provide the LLM with a few specific examples of what you're looking for.
So instead of just saying find vulnerabilities, you might give it a few examples of vulnerable code snippets and say, see, this is the kind of stuff I want you to find.
Exactly. By providing those examples, you're giving the LLM a better understanding of the task at hand.
Okay, that makes sense. Does the research show that it actually improves performance?
It does, but the results are still a bit mixed.
Hmm.
It seems like the effectiveness of few-shot prompting depends on a lot of factors, like the complexity of the task and the quality of the examples you provide.
Right, so it's not a guaranteed win.
Not always. And that's where techniques like chain of thought prompting come in.
Chain of thought prompting.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a new one. What is that?
So this is all about getting the LLM to think step by step. You're basically encouraging it to break down the problem into smaller chunks and to explain its reasoning process as it goes.
So instead of just saying find the vulnerability, you'd say something like, first, look for potential injection points, then examine the code for improper input validation, and so on.
That's exactly right. By guiding the LLM through that logical thought process, you're essentially training it to think more like a human security analyst.
That's fascinating. It's like we're teaching LLMs to think critically about code security.
You got it. And the research suggests that this approach can really make a difference in both vulnerability detection and fixing.
Okay, so chain of thought prompting sounds pretty powerful. Are there other prompting techniques that researchers are exploring?
Yeah, there are a bunch. There's in-context prompting, where you provide the LLM with some background information about the code to help it understand the context. And then there's task-oriented prompting, where you give very specific instructions about what you want the LLM to do.
Okay.
And you even have things like role-oriented prompting, where you assign a specific role to the LLM, like security analyst.
Okay, so it's like we're giving them a job title. You're the security analyst now. Go find those vulnerabilities.
Exactly. And it turns out that can actually be quite effective.
Wow. It's amazing how much the way we communicate with these LLMs can impact their performance.
It really is. And it highlights the importance of understanding these different prompting strategies and knowing when to use which one.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Definitely not. It's about choosing the right tool for the right job, so to speak. Now, we've talked a lot about the theoretical and experimental side of LLMs in code security. But what about the real world? How are these models actually being used in practice today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm curious to know how companies are actually integrating these powerful tools into their workflows. Are they really using LLMs to find and fix vulnerabilities in their code?
Well, it's still early days, but we're starting to see some real-world applications emerge. One area that's getting a lot of attention is using LLMs to analyze and understand really large existing code bases.
So instead of having security experts manually sift through millions of lines of code looking for vulnerabilities, companies can now use LLMs to automate that process.
Exactly. It's a total game changer, especially for organizations with these complex legacy systems where traditional security auditing methods just don't scale.
I could see how that would be incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
Are there any other real-world applications being explored?
Oh, absolutely. Researchers are also looking at using LLMs in security-critical domains like autonomous vehicles and medical devices.
Wow, those are high-stakes applications where a single security flaw could have catastrophic consequences.
Exactly. And that's why this research is so important. They're exploring whether LLMs can be used to not only detect vulnerabilities in these complex systems, but also to suggest potential fixes, all while adhering to the strictest safety standards.
That's pretty mind-blowing. It's almost like having an AI co-pilot for safety-critical software development. But let's be realistic for a moment. While all of this sounds incredibly promising, I imagine there are still some limitations we need to be aware of when it comes to LLMs and code security, right?
You're absolutely right. LLMs offer this incredible potential, but they're definitely not a silver bullet. One of the biggest limitations is their susceptibility to bias and error.
Can you elaborate on that a bit? What kind of biases and errors are we talking about?
Well, remember that LLMs are trained on massive amounts of data, right?
Right.
And if that data contains biased or inaccurate information, the LLM can actually inherit those flaws.
So it's a case of garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. The quality of the training data is absolutely paramount. And that's why researchers are working so hard on ways to identify and mitigate biases in those training data sets.
Okay, that makes sense. It sounds like we need to be cautious and not just blindly trust the output of these models, no matter how impressive it might seem.
Absolutely. Critical thinking and human oversight are still essential. Now, another big consideration is the impact of LLMs on the future of software development itself.
Okay, the future of software development, that's a big one. What are people saying about how LLMs will change the way we build software?
Well, there are some experts who believe that LLMs will eventually automate many of the tasks that developers currently handle.
Okay, and that naturally raises concerns about potential job displacement in the software industry.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. But others argue that LLMs, rather than replacing developers, will actually augment their capabilities, freeing them from those tedious and repetitive tasks so they can focus on higher level problem solving and innovation.
So it's less about LLMs taking over and more about LLMs becoming these really powerful tools in the hand of skilled developers.
Exactly. It's like the transition from hand coding to using IDEs, integrated development environments.
Right.
IDEs didn't replace programmers, they just made them more efficient and productive.
That's a great analogy. So it's not about fearing the rise of the machines, but rather about embracing the potential for LLMs to enhance human ingenuity and creativity.
Precisely. And this shift from low-level coding to higher-level design and problem solving could actually lead to a surge in demand for developers with specialized expertise in areas like AI, security, and user experience.
So instead of worrying about job losses,
Mm.
developers should be focusing on upskilling and adapting to this new landscape.
Absolutely. The software development world is constantly evolving. And as LLMs become more integrated into our workflows, it's crucial for developers to embrace lifelong learning and stay ahead of the curve.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from vulnerabilities to prompting strategies to real-world applications and limitations, and even the impact on the future of software development itself.
It's been a whirlwind tour for sure.
It really has. And it's clear that LLMs are having a profound impact on the world of code security.
Absolutely. This is a dynamic and evolving field, and understanding the nuances of LLMs and their security implications is essential for anyone involved in software development, whether you're a developer, a security expert, or just someone who cares about building secure and reliable software.
So where do we go from here? What are the key takeaways our listeners should remember from our deep dive into LLMs and code security?
Yeah, so much to unpack, right? But if our listeners could only take away, say, 3 key things from this whole deep dive into LLMs and code security, what would those be?
Hmm. 3 key things. Okay, well, first off, I'd say remember that LLMs are tools. Powerful tools, yes, but still just tools. Like any tool, they can be used for good or for bad.
Right. So it's not about the LLMs themselves, it's about how we use them. Exactly. The key is to use them responsibly and ethically. And that means being aware of their limitations.
So no blindly trusting the LLM's output, no matter how impressive it might seem.
Definitely not. Always bring your own critical thinking and expertise to the table.
Okay, so that's one key takeaway. LLMs are tools. Use them responsibly. What's number 2?
Number 2, stay curious, stay engaged. The world of LLMs is moving so fast.
Yeah, it really is. It feels like there's a new breakthrough every week.
Exactly. So it's crucial to stay informed about all the latest developments, especially when it comes to security and ethical considerations.
So subscribe to podcasts like ours, follow the leading researchers in the field,
Yeah.
and never stop learning.
Couldn't have said it better myself. The more we understand about LLMs, the better equipped we'll be to harness their power for good and, avoid any potential pitfalls.
Okay, so stay curious, stay informed. That's number 2. What's the third and final key takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the third takeaway is this. The future of code security, just like the future of software development in general, it's a collaborative one.
Collaboration, I like that.
Yeah, LLMs and humans, we each bring unique strengths to the table.
Right, like LLMs can analyze massive amounts of code in the blink of an eye,
Right.
but humans are still better at understanding context, nuance, and those higher level security concepts.
Exactly. So it's through partnership and shared learning that we can create a truly secure and resilient digital world.
It's not about LLMs versus humans. It's about LLMs and humans working together.
Precisely.
I love that. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into LLMs and code security. What a fascinating exploration.
It really has been.
Big thanks to Enabasi and Abertogiaretta for their insightful paper, and to all the researchers who are pushing the boundaries in this exciting field.
Here, here.
And of course, huge thanks to all of you, our amazing listeners, for joining us on this journey.
We appreciate you.
We'll catch you next time for another deep dive into the world of cutting-edge research. Until then, stay curious and keep coding securely.